Hi guys. So we're gonna do a book review. Um, so I've decided with these books we're going to just do basically my gaming experiences as I went through games. So today we're gonna do Car Wars. We're gonna do second edition, and we're gonna look at what this game was about. This game actually was kind of important in my life because it helped me to understand math and schooling much more than my math teacher ever did. I had a hard time in school. Um, I I love to woodwork, and this game actually helped me understand algebraic equations when I had no understanding what algebra even was. And the algebra was actually very simple. It wasn't like complicated. It was more like pre-algebra. Anyway, I'll show you what that did for me as I was able to help teach my own kids when I start homeschooling and stuff like that. So, I really hope you enjoy this little book, Car Wars Second Edition. And we'll go over to the screens now. All right, there she is. And it's all its beautiful second edition glory. I love second edition Car Wars. Never gotten to the third, fourth, or fifth. Sixth seems interesting. It's more like Gaslands now, it looks like. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't done it. Again, you may hear children in the background screaming or crying. It's the joys of life. It's how you know you won. So, anyway, Car Wars. This was one of the best board games that I played, and it was I spent hours designing cars so I could go. I never had a player. My dad was the only person that played with me, but he was always working, rightfully so. He was trying to support a family. When I did play, I did finally get a friend that did like to play. This game is awesome. If you pick it up, I think you pick it up on DriveThruRPG now for a couple bucks. It's a very simple. It's I don't say it's simple. It's not a simple game. It is complex. But you have like your chronological. Me trying to speak take two. I'm not editing this out. You got your chronological order here of what happened from the year 2000 on. And the way the game is actually played is it's set 50 years in the future. So as we go 1 year into the future, so does the game. Now the game hasn't been really updated like that, I don't think, in 6th edition. I don't know. I'm not really interested in buying the 6th edition book. What's great about this is dice. It's simple. Need D6s. Need some road maps, which I think they're in the back here, but all it is 1-inch grid paper. You can make whatever you want on 1-inch grid paper. And you make your own car on a piece of paper, after you design it. The game is set every 5 phases is a turn. Each turn equals a 1 second in real time. So things are going very quickly to the perspective of the characters. You got your movement chart up to 300 miles an hour, which I don't think I've ever figured out how to get a car up to 300 miles an hour except for a dragster, with boosters, rocket boosters. The cars are very 1980 style, which I love because, I don't know, 80s were just kind of an interesting time. So anyway, you could crash. This is your control table. You had a handling class as you did more maneuvers. It shows you the maneuvers. You can kind of see this is how the board actually was laid out. So these are all just two-dimensional. These are not 3D models, although I am was working on making 3D models for this game to 3D print them. And I might still do that, but you had like a turning key, and as I said, this is you had different maneuvers you can do, and each thing was a difficulty. So it dropped your hand. So let's say like you had a handling class of 3, and you did a difficulty 3 maneuver, which would drop your handling class. Well, then you would just go back here and just reference a chart and see if you were safe, or if you had to roll that number or above. So like if I was doing 100 miles an hour and my handling class went to -1, I would have to roll a 2 or better on a 6-sided die. Hit the X's, you go to a crash table. And then, so most battles ended by crashing, which was great. I thought it was great because you had pieces of your car falling apart and everything else like that. And that's another thing, is you could chunk out your car. You know, you could lose a weapon, lose some armor, blow off a tire, you know. So what was great about this game is it allowed for imagination. It had hovercrafts, helicopters, 10-wheeled vehicles, big rigs, all the way from your subcompact to your vans. And later on, this one also had boats. But later on, you had tanks. That was a brutal game. It was a long game because you were just beating the heck out of each other and just having a lot of it was always fun. I always enjoyed this game. This game has always been fun. But there's a little bit of charting. It's like in the between, because when was this made, or when was this second edition came out? 89. And then you had Uncle Albert's, was it his weapon catalog, right? Where you can buy more weapons, because it's all based off the dollar value here, right? And that's how you build your stuff. And this is actually a quasi role-playing game, which I always thought, but it was funny because you only have 3 hit points unless you made your character worked out, then you can have some more. But yeah, trailers, jackknifing. It had all sorts of ways to do this. And this was, and you didn't need to use all these charts. These were only specific to the scenario you're doing, right? If you're using hovercraft, then yeah, you would have to use some different types of maneuvers and the protractor and stuff. And hovercrafts were the most complicated to pilot, because it was just it could go all over the place. Boats would use the protractor just because they had a bigger marker, or a chit, as we would call them. And then, of course, you'd have weather. And then, combat was, you would have arcs. So, unlike like 40K where your arcs are everywhere, it depends on what weapons and everything else, where they were placed. So, and then you have modifiers to hit. Everything was run on 2d6 to hit. And you would have positives were better, because that would add to your die roll. If you, like a Vulcan machine gun would need 6 to hit base, and so you need a 6 or better on 2 dice. But if you use like a targeting computer, for example, you would get a +1 to hit. So you would need a 5 actually, because 5 + 1 is 6. Hey, look at that math, right? Catch the car on fire if you need to. You would have automatic fire, where the guns just keep firing every turn, because each guy would only have one activation, right? He can fire 1 gun per turn. So if you had 2 guys in there, you got to fire 2 guns per turn at different targets, right? But if you had automatic fire, it just fire, and just goes straight in the line, and then you can possibly hit something. You had mines, you had smoke, and of course the weapon chart. So this is the basic weapon chart. So you had, your basic small bore, large bore projectile weapons, rockets, lasers, flamethrowers, dropped gases, dropped liquids, dropped solids, and then some dischargers. These were the basic ones. You could do so much with this game. Not only that, each gun had different type of ammo too. So you can have high density ammo for a machine gun, incendiary, anti-personnel, or explosive, for example, right? Or the tank gun, an actual tank gun. It's like a 75 millimeter, right? You have heat, armor pins, armor AP FSDS, which is armor piercing, fin stabilizing, discarding, sabot. Don't ask me why I know that. I still know that from my other historical gaming. So yeah, and each one had cost per shot, weight of the weapon, the space it takes. So everything was designed in spaces. So some cars would have like 10 spaces. A machine gun, for example, would take 1 space. A driver would take up 2 spaces. A passenger that has no controls or whatever would only take up 1 space. And then, you would start going into pedestrians, so you can actually fight against pedestrians. Characters. This is where the kind of the role-playing stuff comes in. So you design a character with some skills, and you take it out into the arena, right? You can take them out to the arena. You could have, what's great is if you had a game master, and the game master would actually have a character too. He would be a mechanic. He would be the mechanic, so he can actually work on a character also while your guys are everybody else is going out and fighting and dying and stuff like that, right? And mechanic skill was actually mostly designed for the GM, so he could actually play too. And then if he ever wanted to stop being the GM, someone else, he could take his guy out and make some money and stuff. But then you have prestige and wealth, and then one of the cool things about it is if you died, you had this gold cross ability where they clone your guy. So I think they call it a brain tape, but it's been a while. So in other words, they'll tape your brain, record everything that's in your brain, and then put it into your clone, and the clone would be yours, and you'd be back again at your body would be healthy. It wouldn't have damage or anything like that. It was very the damage on the characters were very simple. You had 3 damage points. First you were wounded, second you're unconscious, third you were dead. Characters could die very quickly. You could have body armor, which adds an extra 3 hit points. Sometimes body armor wouldn't help with collisions though, because it could get pretty bad. And there was 2 different types. You could have encumbrance, or you could have what they call a grenade equivalence. So grenade equivalence was easier because you'd have to calculate the weight for your guy. But you're just limited on how much you can carry. And then, of course, they had their own hand weapon list, which was what the pedestrians could carry. I mean, you had like submachine guns, double barrel shotguns, gauze pistols, a light anti-tank weapon, for example. You even had like a bayonet and stuff like that. There was a lot to do with the characters, and but then when you come to the building part of the game, was the cream of the crop, right? It was part of the game. You designed your cars within a certain amount of dollar amount. So Division 10, it would go in divisions, like Division 10, 20, 30, something like that, right? 10, 15, each division. So if you went Division 5, it was a $5,000 car. 10 was a $10,000 car. So you would use that as kind of like any other game with like based off points. Nothing in this game was really fair. If you really wanted to, you could really get stupid with it. In the world, they had power plants, which so gasoline is gone. Or not gone, it's very rare. It's like $40 a gallon. But they have these fuel cell plants, right? And not quite electric, but I forget what fuel cell is something different, but that was based off the technology that was coming out in the 80s. They were thinking about it. So Steve Jackson, the designer of the game, just took it to its logical conclusion. He thought in the future would have fuel cells. Fuel cells are tough. They don't have the acceleration as gas engines do, but you don't have to worry about gasoline either. And power plants allows you to fire energy weapons like lasers and run other electronics without having what they call a laser battery. But so you can improve on your engine. You can give them upgrades on your engine too, right? But it starts costing a lot more money. Gas engines, you get a lot more options, but as soon as the gas engines start getting hit, you would have to roll on a critical engine table. Yeah, that it you can see your just engine smoke up. Now, if you need to acceleration, gas engines had the acceleration. The power plants had the fuel cell power plants had the speed. So it was give or take, right? They gave you ranges too. Of course, you could pick your different types of tires, your suspension. This is kind of like a kind of a mechanics game. You know, you can't really put weapons for real on your car. I guess you can here in the United States. Actually, in some states, you can put weapons on some cars. I'm not sure. I have to check the rules on that. Might be interesting. Anyway, so but you can really play out car combat, and oh yeah, cycles and trikes. Yeah, I just love the 80s style dresses. For I don't know if you can see it as well. Let's see if I can bring it up. Yeah, come on. Yeah, that's about the best. Yeah, the drawings on here are great. I mean, they're very 80s, very 80s. Now here's the oversized vehicles. I actually liked. It was funny because of this game, I thought of being a trucker one time just for a little bit, thinking, oh yeah, these big old trucks. Glad I never did, because I mean, having a truck with guns would have been funner, more fun, funnest, something like that. English is hard. Yeah, so you can have the big rigs with the cab overs, the long nose. You just had options over options over options of how you want to play, how you want to design your own vehicle. And I mean, they have even silly things you can put in your vehicle, like armored beer refrigerator. It's a refrigerator that holds beer for your characters, and it's armored, but also floats a couple people too if your boat sinks. I mean, it does have a kind of game thing, right? It tries to save your character. More of a role-playing narrative gaming. This game was more designed for both. Actually, I would say it's both designed for on-the-road encounters, arena fighting, and narrative role-play. I did a narrative role-play with my sister-in-law one time, and it was actually kind of fun because I got to make up a whole bunch of cars, and she got to have this super-duper car. I was like $55,000, and I was fighting her against like buggies and stuff like that, and it was an off-road vehicle. And then they even had racing cars, right? Their racing in this world was very violent. It was still racing, but you can still try to kill your other player as you're racing. And then, of course, this was all the effects of weapons and stuff like that, and just gives you more of a detail of that chart I showed earlier. Then you had accessories. This is where you could put turrets on your car. You can put hidden weapons on your car. Because in this game, you're not supposed to tell each other what you have. There was a lot of trust in these games, like BattleTech and this one, and where you had to trust the other player that he's just not going to try to win, but to play to have the enjoyment of both players, right? I think that's lost on a lot of games nowadays, to where it you have to expose everything. There's no surprise. There's no hiddenness. It's just you don't know the fun you can have when you just don't know what the other player has. Oh yeah, you could put a RAM plate. I forgot about RAM plates. I haven't played this game in probably 10 years. No, that's not true. About 2 years. My friend came over and we played. Yeah, I mean, just it's not as pretty as like the newer books, but we all can see what these things are. I mean, do heavy duty brakes. I mean, or even like A portable shop. Why would you have a portable shop for a game that you're just playing, unless it's for an RPG? So as I said, this is also the RPG, and then they have the sample cars. So if you don't know how to build one, they have sample cars that from Division 5 to Division, I think, 15 or 20, and they're okay, but these are considered the actual produced cars, some of them. And there used to be a huge community of this, right, where you could find people building cars, calling in putting names to them, and then you can use them, take them out and test them out and drive them, right? But yeah, here's like a record sheet, right? So you could just, back in the day, photocopy it, before scanning. So you can you just draw little squares or whatever for damage, your weapons, your handling class for each turn, armor type. That's what I forgot to talk about. So armor, it just wasn't. So normally you have plastic armor that's ablative, right? So as you get hit, your armor goes down. Well, you can have metal armor, which wasn't ablative, which would stay most of the time, unless they rolled a 6 on a damage roll. So like a machine gun has 1 die damage, for example, right? So if they roll a 6, 1 point of metal would go off. But if it was plastic and they roll a 6 points of plastic would go off. But you could hold more plastic than you could metal. What you can also do too is laminate the armor with metal and plastic. And then the metal and plastic had options too. The plastic had fireproofing, laser proof, radar proof, because there was radar guided weapons for your rockets and stuff like that. So yeah, what do you want to do with your car? I mean, within like near future post-apocalyptic, well, it's like the generation after the post-apocalypse, right? There's technology now again, but it's a very violent world. And then, here's your here's your like your Excel spreadsheet before the Excel spreadsheets, right? This game was very, very fun. Is very, very fun. It is a shame that we don't make games like this anymore. It does take a lot of work to play these games. It takes more work to get it ready. But anyway, here was my see if I wonder if I could bring it up. Here's where I learned how to do algebraic equations. I didn't even know I was doing it. So yeah, so 360 times power factors. Power factors is like the power of your engine divided by power factors plus weight, and that would be your top speed. I was doing that, and in math class I was failing, but I was doing this. I understood this, which was funny. When my wife showed me that, because I barely passed math and algebra because I just didn't understand it. I didn't know X was a placeholder for a number. No one told me that, or I just misunderstood. And then when my wife told me that, I was like, oh, that's it? And then when I went to college and I did some math, I was like, oh, this is easy, because this game taught me how to do math, where I was having fun with it versus me just being bored in a classroom. Well, guys, I think that's Car Wars for you. That's Car Wars 2nd edition. You guys should pick it up, just even if just to read some of the stuff. They have Auto Dueling quarterlies, which were magazines that came out quarterly for it. I have some of them. I don't have a lot. I would love to collect all of them. It only ran for 10 years, so there's only 40 of them. And it shows a kind of a history of gaming, how it went from like the 70s. If you go to my friend Galen's website, or his channel, which is down there. I'll go back to normal. Which is in the description. If you go to Galen's channel, he does a lot of the older stuff, which I enjoy because it's before my time, and I love where the history came from there. Yeah, or where my games came from was from what he played. So, in these games that I'm playing, they're the old games now compared to what we're playing now. I mean, people are saying that 8th edition Warhammer 40K, which came out in 2016, I think it was, is old. And it's like, I was playing 1st edition. How many guys saw the book review on that, right? So, pick it up on DriveThru RPG. And it's only a couple bucks. And then I hope you guys enjoy these. They're fun to share. Just kind of my gaming life that I went through. Anyway, God bless. Take care. And I'll see you guys again soon for After Action Report. Oh, no, not After Action. It's a pass and review. We're a pass and review. You guys have a good one.